So welcome to the podcast. So I'm Reese Hallard with Julian Sollai, and this is obviously going to be posted on both of our podcasts, The Weight of the World and The Elite Body and Performance. And we thought it'd be great because, Julian and I, we have, very similar morals in the fitness industry. We're both extremely driven, and we thought it'd be great to literally just sit down and just have a chat and have a conversation, because we know obviously we'll be able to provide a lot of value for those listening. So Julian, how are we?
Yeah, not too bad. I was really excited as well because, to be fair, we've known each other for couple of years now, but we never actually properly sat down and had a proper chat.
Absolutely.
About things, so.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's been, a very, very long time coming. So as soon as we booked it in, I was like, I know Julian lives in, local to London. Like, this just makes sense. Why don't we
live in the same city?
Yeah, live in the same city. And you're right. I think we haven't even got a training session in together, have we yet? So
we definitely should.
I know we done a little one in Marbella at that time, but
yeah.
actually a dedicated one, I guess, at Muscleworks will probably be the best place for us.
How long have you not been in Muscleworks for?
Gosh, I think I haven't trained there in over a year.
Over
a year, yeah. So I train over at King's, but I love the atmosphere.
I'm actually at King's tomorrow.
Are you at King's tomorrow? Yeah. Which one?
The Croydon one.
Croydon one, that's the best one. Yeah. I usually go to the Crawley one because it's right next to me. Croydon one's not too far, but the Crawley one's literally there. So I just find for convenience to go there. But if I'm ever going, right, I need a great session today.
Yeah.
Croydon Kings every time.
Yeah.
Or Muscle. I used to work at Muscleworks before it was called Muscleworks. It was called Sollai Fitness. So I used to work. Yeah. Hey. So before Muscleworks, this was about 2-3 years before COVID. It used to be called Sollai Fitness, and that's when I worked there.
Was it a guys only gym?
No.
Okay, because I know it used to be, but maybe it was just even before.
Maybe even before that, yeah. So the way the gym was set out before, it was quite similar to now. It's kind of, spit and sawdust to a degree. So downstairs was just heavy lifting equipment, right? Then the second floor was more class-based. So the owners at Sollai Fitness, they were heavily into their combat sports. So there was a big MMA studio, a boxing studio. There's a fitness class, some beds and all that shit upstairs. But when Muscleworks took over, they obviously made second floor weights and then a mini third floor with cardio, and it looks so much better. And I think so much more of a better use of the space as well, right?
Yeah, for sure. Upstairs, it's like a leg room.
Yeah,
and that's
awesome.
All leg equipment,
Yeah, I like that as well because you can almost be in one place and just get it. Instead of walking around thinking, like, fuck, where's that machine gone?
Yeah, for sure.
But no, I thought we need to get a session in. But Julia, I thought it'd be pretty cool. So we're gonna kind of cover a lot of topics. So I think let's start with a bit more results, transformation, and I think transition a little bit more into life and business and just a bit of chit chat. But I'd love to know on the front end, what would you say is the biggest kind of mistakes men and women make when they want to achieve a transformation? What's the biggest mistakes they want to start off with it, would you say?
Well, I think, and it's not just a mistake that that people make, but it's also a mistake that I think a lot of coaches make.
Yeah.
And it's to not have a long-term plan.
Yeah.
I think it's just going like month by month or week by week.
Yeah. And
not actually design a proper map of, where do I want to be in 5 months? And according to that, then where do I need to be at the end of next month? Absolutely. And so you set targets, and that just makes everything a lot easier, because then if you don't hit the targets, you can evaluate why that is happening and just adjust things along the way. But without a clear vision, like a clear map, everything becomes a lot harder.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I think it highlights as well, like, for instance, in our program, we're releasing a program soon called The Business Athlete. And we have like a 5-phase methodology. So you got phase 1, which is design and dominate. So this is where we look at, structuring out your days, your weeks, and making sure that everything's programmed in to make, because, as a business owner, things are busy, right? Things are spontaneous. So it's just making sure the week's planned out. Then phase 2 is like recomp and self-mastery. So we know specifically, this is how many weeks or months your recomp and self-mastery phase is going to take. Then as soon as we get to there, we go through a business sprint. So we can reverse out, we can fuel yourself with a little bit more nutrients, a little bit more things that's going to help our focus, productivity, and energy. And then we go for a body sprint. Yeah. So then following that, the body sprint is more so, let's dig deep, let's see, what we're capable of. Let's build our self-belief, our confidence, and really go for a body sprint. Then it's like the reward phase, right? You've got the transformation, you're feeling great. And then we have something we transition to called a VIP legacy program. So this is effectively where they go on to the next part. So when they join, they get a vision for the initial 6 months, but they're already thinking about month 12, 2 years, 3 years. Yeah. And like you say, a big mistake that people make is they look at it and go, right, 3-month transformation, then I'm done. 3 months and I don't need to think about fitness anymore. So I get to month 3 and then come month 4, transformation's gone. Oh, fucking, I've rebounded. I've put it all back on. And I think that's, like you say, a big mistake that not just people make, but coaches make. It's right, when you get the transformation, that's when you're most vulnerable. This is where the magic happens. Can you keep it lifelong?
Yeah.
And if you can't, you're going to be stuck in this yo-yo cycle, in and out, never getting a transformation, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think, what a lot of people try to escape from, and I totally get it, is getting a bit of education. And, just to touch on that point, I think there's so many different ways that you can learn something new.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be through like a course or reading about it or necessarily like getting lectured about it. But I think working with a coach also means that you indirectly learn a lot about the process. And this helps you massively with then retaining the results and getting, more results long term as well.
Absolutely.
So I think that's definitely, something that perhaps it's a bit overlooked by a lot of people. Is just getting a little bit of education throughout the process. So it's not just getting a meal plan or a training plan, but it's about learning what that actually translates to,
of course,
on a daily.
And not only that, I think people learn practically, right?
Yeah.
You can read a book or you can watch a YouTube video and you're going to take in a degree of knowledge, right? But if you're actually doing these things that you're reading about, or you're doing these things that you're watching, that's when you really start to understand and you take in that knowledge so much better. I can't remember the statistic. I think it's like kinesthetic learners, or, don't quote me on that because I might be completely wrong. But there's a style of learning, and I think it's like a crazy statistic, like 70+ people learn best through actually taking part in said thing.
Yeah.
As opposed to just watching a YouTube video, actually doing what they're watching.
100%. Yeah.
Knowledge soaks in so much more. So like you say, working with a coach where you can practically get the information and implement it knowing it's the right thing, and that sticks in your mind. Because, there's a lot of shit online, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff you look at, then you implement the wrong thing, then you got the wrong mindset, and you got the wrong thought process. So kind of just doing it right once. Because you only need to do it right once.
100%.
Right? You do it right once.
Yeah.
And you should be set up for life.
Yeah.
Just like me and yourself, for instance. We want to be the last coaches our clients would ever need, right? Unless they wanted to continue, but they have the option to go, right, do you know what? If I do set out alone, I've got my transformation. I know what to do. I keep it for life.
Yeah.
That's always the goal, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think that kind of connects to another concept that I'm just really fond of, which is, the fact that motivation comes after action. I think a lot of people think they need to be motivated before doing the thing, or necessarily, or understand it really well before you do it. But it's not necessarily the case. In fact, I think, as you said, learning things through doing it is the best way to learn about it. And also that attaches to feeling motivated about doing the thing. If you do it, then you find a motivation to do it.
Absolutely.
And confidence as well. Confidence comes from evidence, right? So you just, prove yourself that you can actually do it. And that's how you build the confidence. Absolutely. And then they kind of intertwine. They work with each other. So the more confidence you get, the more you do the thing, and the more you get evidence, and the more you get confidence. But it all starts from taking action.
I couldn't agree more. It's actually quite funny you say that, because you hit the nail on the head. A couple of days ago, I had Gavin McHale on my podcast, and I listened to him speak at a business event in Mexico, Cancun, and he works with entrepreneurs and helping them really kind of dig beneath, themselves and really find out self-development and things within their own brain. And he was saying exactly what you said. Confidence comes from evidence. If we have no evidence of something we want to convince ourselves of, it's going to be tough for us to believe what we're trying to convince ourselves of. Yeah. So for instance, if I go, I want to be able to fly to the moon. I've got no evidence that I have ever flown to the moon. It's going to be tough to do. But if I want to go, right, I want to film this podcast with Julian. I've got evidence I can film a podcast. I've got 70 odd episodes. There's evidence there. So I feel confident coming into the scenario. Same thing if you go to the gym. It's not like you're going to, right, I'm going to feel confident going to the gym. Actually, do you know what? A couple of months ago, I went to the gym. I felt confident. So I've got evidence that I've been there and I felt great. So if I can do it then, I can do it now. So I think that's really important, what you just touched on, in having the evidence behind you, knowing that you've got the self-belief to do it. And then that obviously, builds into motivation, right?
100%. I think, actually, that's, that was one of the questions that I had for you, because I really do think that you're definitely one of the most confident people I know. So what I was wondering is, have you always been this confident, or did you have to build it? Or
build it massively. I wouldn't even say I'm that confident now, to be honest with you. I think through environmental exposure, the situations that I've been in has almost not forced me to become confident, but forced me to be a little bit more extroverted. But as a youngster, I was an introvert. like a big introvert. Like it's quite funny. My missus would say every time I would meet anyone new or my missus' family, I'll go bright red in the face. I'll go quiet. You know, I try to, if I see someone I know in Tesco's, I'm trying to put my head down. Like I'm just not great in social situations. And I know it's quite easy to watch. I think bullshit. Because I've been doing this for 5-6 years, talking on camera, talking on YouTube, just purely what we do for work, we can have the biggest impact when we do this, right? But this is just repetition. I've been doing it for 5-6 years.
Yeah.
So I've had to build the skill, right? You do something for 5-6 years, you're going to build the skill. But
you build that evidence.
You build the evidence, exactly. But I mean, I think my lack of confidence when I was younger, I wanted to be a pro footballer growing up. And I went on trial at loads of professional football clubs and I kept getting rejected. I just weren't good enough. You know, I was good enough to get spotted and get a trial. I weren't good enough to get a contract. And each and every time that knocked my confidence. So kind of stepping into the industry in the first place, my confidence was fucking all over the place. I was so unconfident. But I found my confidence through building this skill. When I became a great coach, I became a little bit more confident. When I became better on camera, I became a little bit more confident on camera.
You're great on camera, bro.
Do you know, when we're talking and it's kind of just to the side of us and we're not thinking about it, you know, it's a bit different. But, you know, I'm sure it's quite the same with yourself, but you set it up and you're like, right, take number 554.
Yeah.
You know, right? How about you? Because you're obviously very confident as well. Was it a skill you had to build up? I mean, I think you come across as very confident. I think there's just a lot of authority in what you say because you're very educated and mastered your craft. So maybe it comes across as super confident. But what's your take from yourself?
Well, I think, I mean, for me, you know, I think building confidence was definitely one of the things that I had to just really work on in the past couple of years. And I think, you know, for me, a lot of it was just down to the fact that, I'm a stranger in a stranger's land, really.
Yeah.
I wasn't born here, and a lot of the things, you know, that have to do with, you know, the way that people communicate and have relationships with each other, I just had to learn a lot about that. And just developing more social skills in general. A bit like you said, you know, I've always been a bit timid, you know?
Yeah. I mean, your story, I'd love for you to touch on that, actually. Your story is amazing. Like, not just from, you know, moving over to a different country, but actually you, X amount of years ago. Like, I know you've done a few pieces of content when you was a little bit younger, a lot smaller, you know, looking completely different. How was that journey for you?
It's you know, I wouldn't even know how to describe it, but I think if I was to kind of wrap it up in a nutshell, I think, you know, I really truly believe that transformation is, you know, and when I say transformation, I don't mean necessarily just physical. Yeah. I just think, you know, I just mean like growth in general. Yeah, and, absolutely. You know, I think that's the meaning of life, really, you know? So I think that's definitely something that maybe initially a bit indirectly, and then later on with a bit more conscious, I definitely always pushed on doing as much as I could, just transforming myself and keep and growing in, you know, all different areas. And I think, you know, sometimes when I look back, I can definitely see that. And that's potentially where my confidence comes from. Yeah. Comes from the fact that, okay, I've been there, now I'm here. You know,
yeah, absolutely.
It means that I must have done something right, you know. I'm not necessarily, you know, super successful or anything, but if I look at where I come from, I definitely came quite far. So
absolutely. And I think, you know, that always depends on what you would define success to be.
Sure.
Because I think the word success is overused in the media, right? And I think success isn't this one blanket quote. I think success is what's success to me, right? So success to me is freedom. It's being able to enjoy every moment of my life. But it's like, you know, people's success, it means you've got cars and you've got women around you, but success is your own definition, right? So you just saying about how you went from where you were to where you're at now, that change, not just in your business, because your business is fucking flying, right? It's not just in your business. It's in the transformation that you've made and how happy you are and how successful you feel. That's a massive success, huge success. And I think people, like I say, I think people look at success to be this big blanket quote, like success is if you're riding in a Lamborghini Urus. That's success, but it's not. Success is, what do I define it as? Yeah. What makes me feel successful? And then it's just almost pushing that boundary, because, you know, when you get to that level that you thought was successful 5 years ago, 3 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
It changes, right? You know, that boundary changes each and every time. That's what happens when you're driven. But I definitely think, you know, people need to almost think, right, if this level of success that everyone determines success to be makes me feel a little bit intimidated, what's my version of success? And let me chase that. And I think,
Would you consider yourself successful?
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no because my goalposts move quite a lot. So every time I get to the benchmark I set, I'm thinking, what's next? I think just naturally when you were quite driven like yourself.
Do you know what? I actually did. I did one of my clients' events last Saturday. Actually, this is one of the things that I touched on when I was doing my talk. You know, I talked about doing it for the love of the game, right? Which you know,
the journey, not the destination.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. And I think, you know, sometimes it's especially when you are in a process, it's a bit hard to see it like that because you just feel that urgency of wanting to achieve that particular goal, and you feel that distance, that gap between where you are and where you want to be.
Absolutely.
But and that's also good because it pushes you, you know, to work harder towards it. But at the same time, you know, when you then get to your destination, you don't stop, you carry on.
Oh, you do, yeah.
And so really then you realize that it's about the game. And I think that's also where you find, you know, happiness. At least that's how happiness came, you know, for me.
Me too.
You know, it's you're getting there are moments, right? A bit like a orgasmic moment in which just everything just falls, you know, together in the right place. But really what it is the realization that shit, I'm in the process and this feels fucking good.
That's do you know what, you've hit the nail on the head there. I don't think there'll ever be a point where I've made it because I've always want to keep pushing that boundary. But I think the saddest day of my life will be the day that I would make it, if you will, right? Because then you're thinking, right, I'm here. What am I working towards? What more do I have? Like I said, I think for me there's never going to be a ceiling. But at the same time, you know, if I ever did make it as such, I think that'll be the saddest day of my life. Because then you're looking thinking, what now? What do I do now? What do I chase now? There's no journey. Like yourself, you've fallen in love with the journey.
Yeah.
And every fucking day that I wake up, I know, right, I've got something to chase today.
Yeah.
That's success to me. If I get up every single day and I've got purpose, I've got something that fucking motivates the fuck out of me. I've got something that drives me and I've got something that makes me happy and I feel free, like I've got freedom. That to me is success.
I have this saying, I really truly believe in, a man that settles is a dead man.
Wow, that's powerful. No, that's powerful.
Yeah. But I really truly believe in that, you know.
Yeah.
I think especially, you know, I think it's for any individual really. But I really do think that, you know, we need a degree of drive with everything that we do. Otherwise, you know, it's just, you're just kind of going by and, you know, and wasting time really.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people are going to be listening to this and thinking, you know, it's great knowing that I have to have that drive. I can't find it. And I think one thing that people do is overthink that. They think they need to have it figured out straight away, but you don't. I mean, Gary Vee says it's best, right? You're 94, you're still young. Like maybe he runs with it, but you know, when we look at the grand scheme of life, if you will, there is so much time. I know people say we're running out of time, but we're not. You're young. Like, you got people listen to this are probably young. You got time. Like, you don't need to have everything figured out today.
Yeah, and also I think you don't necessarily need to do what you love, especially if you're not sure about what it is that you love.
Yeah.
I think, you know, it kind of goes back to, you know, overthinking and underacting, right? Wow. You just keep thinking about, you know, what it is that I really enjoy, what it is that I love, and you know, and you can't figure it out, and you think that you need to find something in order to, you know, to really be driven, when in reality, you know, what we were saying, it's about the game. So whatever game it is, really, at the end of the day, it's going to work if you just commit to it. So sometimes you just got to go for it and then figure it out. So
that's it. Yeah.
But you know, it's about doing, you know, one thing as you do everything. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. How you do anything is how you do everything. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And no, I definitely agree. Like, even if I was to look at my goals set when I first started personal training, completely different now. And I know whatever goals I have now will probably be different. My big goal will never change. I want to impact the whole entire health and fitness industry in a different way. That will never change. But I know a lot of the methods I use and a lot of things that come as a byproduct will change. And that's okay. So I think, you know, people that do sit there and go, I don't know what my goal is. Be that in life, be that in career, be that even in physique. You don't need to know. And that's not me saying, because there's a difference, right? There's getting complacent. Oh, great. I don't need to know. Oh, cool. I just sit down playing video games all day. I don't need to know yet. But there's also going, right, I'm searching. I'm looking for it. I don't know it yet. I know I've got time. It's okay. But I'm going to keep doing everything I can to find it. If you're in option B, fucking amazing. Great work. Option A, you're getting complacent. You're just being a lazy fuck. That's your own fault, right? So as long as you got that, even if you don't have purpose, as long as you're finding it and you're searching for it and you're looking for it, what more can you do?
Where do you think that laziness comes from for people?
I'm going to say environment's number one.
Okay.
I'm going to say environment's number one.
As in number one, as in it's the biggest?
Not number one is the biggest thing.
Okay.
But I think number one is in like the first thing I could think of is environment. I find for me, I perform at my highest when I'm surrounded by people that do the same. And take it with a pinch of salt, right? Because, I mean, growing up, I wasn't necessarily surrounded by the people that I am now. And growing up, I was still driven. So I do think it is also, inside a lot as well. But I do think environment dictates performance. And I think the people you spend time with, the people you hang around with, like for instance, you and I are having this conversation now, right? And I think we're both quite similar in how we think. We're quite driven. We got big purpose. If we were having a chat with somebody else who doesn't have that, the conversation would be completely different. So coming away from this conversation, I'm going to extract value from yourself, motivation, education, and just value generally about life. If I have conversation with somebody else, I might not extract as much, and that's okay. That's absolutely fine. But I might not extract value in the sense of what I want to achieve or where I want to take my life. So if I'm surrounded by people that add value consistently, and I provide value consistently, I know I can push things forward faster. So I think maybe environment could be one. How about you?
Yeah, I think environment definitely. But I think also, as you said, because I think the thing about the environment is that I suppose like up until a certain age, it's not really your choice, right? You find yourself in a certain environment, but then I think you definitely have, as you become more independent in your life, you get more of a choice,
Absolutely.
with, deciding who you want to spend time with. So I do think that environment is a massive thing, but I also do think that people have the power to change the environment. So,
of course.
So it has to come from within for sure. And I think for a lot of people, laziness is actually just a coping mechanism, I think,
Yeah.
And it's a way to kind of escape the pain of having to deal with their own shit,
Of course.
in order to actually do things and and take action, because it's a painful thing if
It is.
dealing with your insecurities about doing something.
Absolutely.
And not just that, because all those limiting beliefs sometimes have to do with something as simple as confidence, but some other times have to do with something a lot deeper than that, perhaps like statements that you've been taught about yourself, or things that that you grew up believing,
Mate, absolutely.
And so I think, the pain and the effort of having to go through all of that sometimes can result into having to cope with, with being lazy about
I agree.
and procrastinating.
Yeah. No, I massively agree. And I think, on that, again, it's one of those where people can almost use it as an excuse or use it as a reason. Like, it's like that quote, your excuse becomes your reason, right? So I think, kind of looking at that as well is a really big factor. So outside of that, what else would you say kind of makes you driven, makes you, almost chase every day like it's your last?
I think it's quite funny, actually, because I think, so I'm a big like promoter of finding your own individuality. Yeah. And I always push everyone. And I think that is part of my program as well. And it's kind of it's not something that we necessarily sell with the program, but I think it's something that definitely comes through, perhaps like with my own journey, or the way that Stina and Harry think, or, just our content and stuff like that. There's a big part of our program that is related to just really finding yourself and your self-expression. So I think, that is definitely powerful, like finding your own individuality. But I also think that there's a next step after that, which is what I'm discovering, especially in the past year, which is what's my place within the community. Right. And so it's not about me anymore. It's not about my individuality, but it's about how can I contribute to the community? The community meaning, I don't know, my clients, or meaning I don't know, London or meaning the UK or meaning the
Yeah.
world, right? But we are all a community. We're all
Of
connected
course.
in a way.
Yeah.
So, I think you go from finding yourself, finding your individuality, to then finding your place within the community. And then at that point, you just kind of acquire a much higher purpose with the things that you do. And you're like, this is my place in the world.
Absolutely.
The world needs me to do this,
Yeah.
and this is why I'm doing this.
Absolutely. I think when you find that as well, you realize that there's so many people that's on a similar mission. I think
Yeah.
that's why people like yourself and I are so big on building communities within our fitness programs. Because when you are surrounded by people that almost have that similar focus, that similar, drive and goals, it just feels like you're a part of something, right? Because I mean, a lot of the time in the game of fitness, and in the game of business, you can almost feel like you're at it alone. Like it can feel like a lonely thing, right? You're kind of like, I'm doing this alone. No one quite understands it. But then when you're in a community of people and you go, fucking hell, he's the same. She's the same. We have similar, all right, there's other people I can bounce off, I can learn from, I can give and take value from. Like it's just comes out, backwards and forwards kind of where you bounce off one another. And I think having that community around you will just force you to elevate so much faster.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's a lot of times that there were some people I wanted to network with and be surrounded by. So I would pay the right person for coaching to get in the right room with the right person.
Yeah.
Or I would invest time. How can I provide this person with every piece of value under the sun so I can be a part of this person's community and learn from? Sometimes you've got to step out of your comfort zone and step out of what you're used to doing to get the result you're after. And it's not always comfortable. I think people think the journey should be comfortable, and it's not. I'm here with a fucking stinking cold. It's not comfortable at all. But no, I think it's important that I think that's a really big point around community and finding finding your place in the world.
100% for sure.
Amazing. So coming towards the end of this podcast, is there anything that you wanted to talk about or touch on or discuss?
I'm just like really curious because obviously you spoke a little bit about your background and and wanting your desire of becoming a footballer.
Yeah.
But I also know that your parents are self-employed as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So growing up, so my father runs a business now, but he kind of started a business when I was young. So like when I was born, was born into a hostel. And then we moved to like a small flat. So for me, I think a lot of my drive came from my dad because I watched him when he had a business that was like nothing. And then growing up, like almost kind of watching the struggle, subconsciously seeing the struggle, right? But watching him grow his business was impactful. Just kind of watching how he would operate day to day. Again, I weren't consciously at 9 years old taking it in, but it's all subconscious. So I'm kind of, watching him and watching him, grow his business and watching how he operates day to day, how he treats his family, how he treats his colleagues at work, and his business now is doing very well. He's doing okay for himself, and just kind of watching it from when I was born, he was living in a hostel and was living in a hostel when I was born to now, he's got a lovely four bedroom place. And it's like, wow, to go from there to there. That's a quite a big motivating factor to me, and I think just kind of having a bit of guidance, I guess. Again, it's not conscious; it's completely different. It's repossessing cars.
Yeah, but that's how it works, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're like sponges at that age.
Sponges, yeah, absolutely. So it's a completely different industry. So I didn't learn anything specific, but I think I just learned, how to take care of the ones close to you. How to make sure that you're putting food on the table
and not give up.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a big one, isn't
not
it?
Give up, not give up. Because there's times like in his business, things can be tough. So after business, and he went bust God knows how many times, and a lot of big problems in the business. Right, how does he react to that? What does he do when that happens? And just kind of watching that subconsciously, and almost taking it in and learning. Right, when I get into a stressful situation, do I behave like this? When I get into a situation when everything goes wrong, how do I react? And I think, us understanding, and again, that comes from knowing you, right? Because I'm different to him, which means my reaction will be different. The way I perceive things are different. So
in what way?
I mean, different people have different.
No, for sure. But in what way you differ from your dad in terms of how you react to things?
I think the first thing is obviously we're all different. Like people would react differently to fight or flight. Right, so you get when something happens, you either go into flight mode or you go into fight mode. So that's the first and more obvious one. I think in regards to my father, how we're different. I mean, it's an interesting one because I wouldn't say we're massively different. Yeah, I mean, that's extremely interesting. I think we're quite the same. Like, he's quite a savage. You know, he is quite a savage, to be fair. So I think in that respect, we are quite similar.
Okay.
You know, I think he growing up was quite similar to myself in quite introverted, but, you know, I think through, you know, running your own, because you learn a lot when you run your own business.
Yeah.
You learn so much, you know. So I think
I think you're also forced to learn a lot about yourself.
it's literally like, imagine you're 5 years old, you're going swimming and you just get cut and you get free thrown into the deep end, deal with it. And you're like, what the fuck is
Exactly.
It's the same thing when you go into the game of business. So even a transformation journey for the first time, you're like, deal with it. And you're like, where the hell do I start? It's almost like you need a life raft to go, right, start here. And it can, you know, you learn to swim faster, almost having a swimming teacher beside you. But it was kind of a case like you just pick you up and dump you in the deep end, deal with it. And you're thinking, oh my God, I'm forced to find a way. There's almost no other choice. I think
we're also forced to develop more self-awareness. Like, you're forced to learn more about yourself. Otherwise, you just can't deal with situations. You end up acting without knowing, like, what happened. How did I find myself in this situation? Why did I react this way? So yeah.
That's extremely powerful. How about you?
In what way?
So in regards to like your story, and I know we touched on it about 10 or so minutes ago, but what would you say is the biggest thing that almost feel like you had to make the change? What was like the standout moment?
There's been so many different breakthroughs. I think first one of the biggest ones that comes to mind was the realization that no one was going to come to save me.
Yeah,
you know?
Powerful.
And I think I think that's a big one for a lot of people. You know, and I think, you know, and I think it's also big in people that perhaps weren't necessarily like, you know, taken care of to the extent that they should have been. You know, and not because of, you know, it could have been for you know, any like particular circumstance, but also because, you know, just, you know, no one teaches you how to be a parent, really, you know. But I think, you know, with that, just the realization that, you know, that it was on me, you know. And so, you know, I could have, you know, cried as much as I wanted. I could have screamed as much as I wanted, but I had to make a change eventually, and, you know, and find my own way, because otherwise I would have just, you know, died at sea. You know.
I mean, I've got a bit of a deeper question then on that. What advice would you give to the younger Julian? So the Julian that was almost felt like I could cry, I could scream. That Julian, it almost felt like there was no way out. What advice now on the back end where you're thriving, you feel like you belong, you've got that sense of purpose, you know, you're successful within yourself. What advice would you give to the younger Julian that almost felt like there's no way out?
I don't know about advice. Not sure, because I don't feel like it was a tactic that got me where I am. Like, obviously, you know, there's tactics that we use with our clients that we use in business as well. But I think down to the core of it, I just had to go through whatever I went through.
Right.
So I guess if there was something I would have said, is just, you know, just keep going, keep walking. Yeah,
absolutely.
You know?
And, you know, it's like that quote, right? Yeah, the journey of 1,000 miles started with a single step. When you say keep walking, it's like you just got to take step number 1. Number 2, it's like if you want to lose 50 pounds, you don't lose 50 pounds, you lose £1 50 times, right? You know, you get those little micro goals. And I think, you know, sometimes when you are looking at a mountain, you think this is so fucking impossible to climb. Like, there's so far to go, I can't do that. But if, like you say, you just keep walking, you take 1 step, then you take step number 2, and then step number 3 comes, and all of a sudden you're getting that tempo, you're getting that rhythm. And now that mountain don't seem quite high because you're already halfway. And you think, all I've done is put one foot in front of the other. I'm now halfway. If I can do half of it, I can do the other half of it. Right. So I think, you know, that's a really cool point you touched on. No, brilliant. Awesome. No, dude, that was an amazing episode. It's really great to have that conversation. I think it's been a long time coming for us to collaborate on a podcast and workout. So I think next to come is the workout. So so you know,
what would you train? What do you want to train?
Push.
Push, yeah.
Let's train push. Let's train push. Let's train the titties. No better day to train. Up for it?
Sounds good, yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So for those that are listening on the Elite Body Performance podcast, where can they find you?
Just Instagram is the best place at the moment. But then I'll be opening my own YouTube channel soon as well.
Nice.
But Instagram would be at julian.sollai, L-A-I.
Yeah, yeah,
Steve
yeah.
always gets me to spell it, so I might as well spell it. But yeah, what about you?
So my Instagram is just at HallardFit, so HALLARDFIT. And for those listening, if you wanted to listen to Julian and I's chat, you know, in video, I'll be posting this onto my YouTube at Reese Hallard as well. So if they wanted to almost watch the video as opposed to just listen to it, you're welcome to head over to YouTube and you can actually watch us taking it in. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and Julian, thank you for sitting down and having the chat. I had a really great time.
Thank you, bro. Same here.